To start with, can you just tell us a little bit of who you are and what you do around here?
Hello, I am a Chhepal Sharpa. My name is Chhepal Sharpa, but people call me Chhepal Sharpa, so it's short form. I'm from Kundai, the village right behind me. Professionally, I'm a trekking guide, but beside that since trekking guide is a seasonal work, beside that I'm an entrepreneur. I do little business.
Can you tell us a little bit of how your life was growing up in the village and how it changed since?
Growing up in Kundai was the best time of my whole life, I would say. So as a child, we used to get up early in the morning. Our parents used to own the yaks. We go up on those hills to graze the yaks and come down and prepare for school, go down to school, play with kids, come back again and play again, and then go back to the high passes again and to bring back the yaks. So it was fun. It was a lot of exercise things and fun. But since smartphone and internet comes, then the time is changing. My son now, he doesn't do anything rather than lying on the bed and playing games on his smartphones beside his school. So yeah, a lot of changes over the valley over the time.
In the way that the kids are raised. And so just going back a step down, but your parents, you mentioned, so did your parents raise yaks as well? How were?
Yes, my parents used to own yaks, and my father was a yak driver. And my parents' income source was from the yaks. So he is a yak driver. He poultry yaks, and that was our main income. So through that income, he raised us. He educated us, and yeah.
So you mentioned earlier then the yak raising and then the agriculture as well were big things about the village. But you mentioned that you're also a tour guide here. And we are near Mount Everest, but you told me as well there are several communities around Mount Everest. How many communities are there living around the Everest area?
In the whole Chhepal Valley, between 30 to 40 communities, 30 different villages. Some villages are big, some are small. Some villages have more than 1,000 populations, but some has only 50, 60 populations. So yeah, there are between 30 and 40 communities in the whole valley.
Between 30 and 40 communities around Everest. So all of them have people that are working as tour guides as well. And what does tourism mean to those communities in comparison to Khumde, for instance?
So most of the communities are in the main Everest Base Camp trekking trails. Those benefited from owning lodges and guest house where tourists come and sleep, so they make good income from lodges. But there are still a lot of villages who are off track from the main Everest Base Camp trail, like Kundai, Kumjung. There are Fort Sai and Pangboch. There are many other villages. So people from those villages work as a tour guide or climbing Sherpas, climbing Mount Everest. So climbing Mount Everest is a big income for the whole community who doesn't have lodges and guest house and other business.
Yeah. So the lodges and guest houses are the biggest ones are placed in the hiking trail, and the ones that are here in Khumde, for instance, what kind of people come this way and visit those? So
Kundai, since Chhepal Valley is introduced the tourism, some trekking companies they fix the itinerary to the Everest Base Camps, and they don't include Kundai, Kumjung, and many other villages into that itinerary. And since then, everybody follow their itinerary, and we are not into their itinerary. That's why we are isolated. We are off track from the main trekking trail. And since we are up from the up track to EBC, people don't invest big money on building lodges because we are not sure whether our lodges we can market it and invite tourists in our lodges or not. So yeah, there are few people who have good money have built lodges, but they're still not going well, and since it has been happening like this.
So just going back a step, you mentioned then again 30 to 40 villages around Everest. Are those all Sherpa villages?
Yes. Above Lugla, it's Sherpa country. It's a Sherpa area. It's called Khumbu. So all the villages are Sherpa people before the tourism. But now, since the tourism flock into the valley, people see more opportunity in the valley to do lodges, hotel, guiding. So different people outside from Khumbu comes to the village, but the locals are mostly Sherpa.
Talking about life in the valley now, like what are the challenges you see of living here?
Oh, there are many challenges. As we are in highest point of the earth, temperature is very cold here. So during the winter, it's freezing cold, and since we have, all the buildings are not well equipped, with the temperature, so it's very cold. Basically, it's very cold here, and the market is far. The nearest market is down in Namche, which is 1 hour walk each way. So groceries and everything we need to go down to buy from Namche. Internet is obviously very poor, so we have to go to the best internet point, which is very cold, and cold temperatures. You carry those cold smartphones and using internet, so those are also a difficult part of life. So many challenges. We have no good communications of telephones and cell phones. So a lot of challenges. Yes.
Yeah, and talking about using the internet, then here in the village, so we have limited places where you have connectivity, or the connectivity is overall?
We have limited places where you get connectivity, and also that places also are not reliable. So sometimes we have internet connectivity, but sometimes not. So it's challenging. So yes.
So basically, so now we were talking about the installation of community network here, but so before that, then when you had this poor quality of signal and spot places where you can get signal, how did people use the internet? Did they all get together in one spot?
Yes, they go everyone go to the spot where you get better signals, and we gather. We have a good chat between ourselves too, and we have good chat in cell phone and to the families who are overseas and friends, and yeah.
And signal, you mean it's a 4G of mobile signal?
Yeah, 4G, 3G. So we have two different communications here in Nepal. One is Ncell and one is NTC. So one is private and one is government, but both doesn't work well here.
So you mentioned that you had limited connectivity, and then you have both services not working properly here. So how did this start the need for you to build? How did you spark the idea of building a community network here?
So somehow I came across with Bikram, who is the founder of, as the president of Nepal Internet Foundations, and then through him we met with Nabid, and then this community network center in Highest Place was born, and we're in good progress now. We have internet access in our community club down in Kundai, where we can go and use the good speed internet. Yes, so this is how we come to this idea.
Okay. So jumping ahead a little bit, we can talk about this a little bit further, but you mentioned that tourism was a big push for you to work with the internet as well. So what does tourism mean for you and for Khumde and Khumjung?
Tourism means everything for this whole valley, as 100% of the people from this valley's income is from tourism. So there are no industries, there are no work opportunities. So everyone is in tourism. So whether you own guide, you do a guide, whether you own lodges, whether you are travel agents, you're porters, so everybody is in tourism. So it's really important. Tourism is the most important. That's why after the COVID hit mostly in tourism industry, because every country has restricted on travel, and then it hit mostly in this valley because the whole income was stopped and people have no income and no money left. It was a very tough time during the COVID time. So tourism is really, it means everything for this valley.
So as you mentioned, then a lot of people are guides, a lot of people support the trackers. So, and you yourself mentioned that you were one of the guides as well. So how did you get started with becoming a guide?
October, November is the peak trekking season here in this valley because of the weather. So usually weather gets better, blue sky in October and November, and it's also a month where we get 2 months holiday in school because of this national festival called Dasai and Tihar. So during those, when I was in school during those holidays period, I go with my parents, my fathers, on trekking, being porter or being Sherpa. So sometimes being porter, sometimes being assistants. That's how I learned to be guide. And then after I finished my school, I went to Kathmandu to obtain a guide license, guide training, and at the age of 17, and that's how I became a guide. So I started from as being a porter, but I wasn't a porter for a long time, just for 2-3 years, I guess.
Interesting. So and then, well, a lot of the people that are guided are international tourists, as you mentioned. So you must need to speak English to them and so on. So how were you able to learn English living in Kumjung? That's an isolated place.
That's a good question. When at my generation, when I was in school, there was no English curriculum in my school. There was only one English book, but the teachers were Nepali, and we don't have good English teachers and good English classes. So after I finished my high school here in Kumjung, I went to Kathmandu to learn English. But there are many English classes, but all are taught by Nepali teachers, and I don't find any good English classes. And then I get this idea to learn online English. So I went to here, I jumped into the YouTube, and I find this link called Anglo Link. It's called, and I learned most of my English from Anglo Link. So my pronunciations, and I'm still not good in English, but whatever I'm speaking, I learned through online.
You're having the whole interview in English. So I can say that you are very good in it. No, and that's amazing. So you learned everything through your YouTube channel, and then probably you practiced a lot with the people that are.
Yes, and also so basic grammar things and basic techniques from YouTube, and then my practice is mostly from tourism, from guiding and speaking with the tourists.
So, and guiding the tourists and doing all the process, you must have yourself finished the summit of Everest as well, right?
I went to climb Mount Everest in 2012. 2012 was a top time in my life. I had to build my house in Kundai. Every year we have a big festival here in Kundai in Kumjung, and I was the organizer that year, so I need a lot of money. So climbing mountain is good money actually for Sherpas, not compared to the whole world, but for Sherpa is good money in 2 months. So I decided to go to climb Everest, but I didn't get a chance to summit, but I went up to South Col, which is 8,000 meters.
Oh, 8,000 meters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very high. And how was the experience like to get there?
It was mixed experience. It was very hard as a climber. I wake up at midnight at 12 o'clock carrying 20 kilo load on your back and climb all those mountains. It was very tough. You lose a lot of weight. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this money. From doing this hard job. But I have an agreement, and I had to complete the agreement. So. But it was very hard and climbing all those hills, and because of lack of oxygen, even I'm a Sherpa, I had to struggle a lot. I don't feel headache and I don't feel altitude sickness, but my legs become very heavy and I couldn't move my legs because of less oxygen on those altitude, and yeah, it was difficult. And then since then I decided I will never ever climb those big mountains. It's not only the risking you take, but it's also a tough work job to do it. Even you get like what $100, it doesn't worth it.
So and that's also probably part of why you want to find new opportunities for yourself.
Yes. That's why I had to look for new opportunities. But then I met with a guy from New Zealand who. His name is John Galley, and he owns Everest Trek in New Zealand, and he appointed me as his head guide, and then I have been working with him since 2007. Quite a long time, yes.
Yeah, quite a long time. And then, so a lot of people come, and a lot of the Sherpa people work as tour guides, as you mentioned. But what does the overall Sherpa community feel about so many tourists coming here to this area, and so many tourists living off the
In my prospect, I don't think I think Sherpa people in this area won't mind coming more tourists, because coming more tourists means generating more incomes to the Sherpas. But at the same time, coming more tourists means coming more guides from outside of Khumbu, coming more porters from outside of Khumbu, and it's not safe. So it was a time when only the Sherpa lives here, and we have no problem leaving your stuff outside. So nobody stole it. But now entering a lot of people into the valley, we have a lot of incidents like thief incidents, stolen something and stolen your valuable ornaments and things. So yeah, it has bad, but yeah, with tourists we don't mind it. We actually love it because we make money from them.
So you were talking about the importance of tourism, and you talked about how tourism was impacted by COVID and how it dropped, and it had a negative effect on the community. But I remember us discussing before that climate change also had an impact in tourism, and it's having and probably will have even more. Can you talk a little bit more about the impact that climate change is having in the livelihoods of the Sherpa in the community?
Yeah, climate change has impacted the whole weather system here. So usually October, November, and April, May is the best time of the year in terms of weather for tourism, for trekkers. They can see mountains. So we have regular flights. So we have only airport in Lugla. So they do a regular flight only when the weather is clear. But now, because of this climate change, the weather pattern is changing. So we have good weather in summer. Summer is supposed to be monsoon here and supposed to be rainy and cloudy every day. But last monsoon was very clear, blue sky every day. But this October here we have really bad weather, and it's a big problem for tourism because all those tourists, every day we have like 1,000 people entering and wanting to come to Khumbu, 1,000 tourists, and we had no flights for 10 days. Imagine 10,000 people stuck in the airport waiting for weather. So all those weather patterns, and some winter we don't have any snow nowadays. Some winter, sometimes we have snow in March, April, which is spring, which is a flower blooming time, but we have snow. So it impacts a lot in the community and in tourism, yes.
And then you mentioned that you had some new ideas about how to generate income around tourism, about the community. How do you think that those new ideas can help with the challenge of climate change? And can you talk a little bit more about the ideas?
Yes, my idea is to start a homestay here in Khunda and Khumjung. Since we are off from the main track to Everest Base Camp, so we don't have any tourists. We do have tourists coming here, but it's a day trip from Namche. So they come from Namche just to and go to the high viewpoint and go back to Namche. So we don't have people coming here and staying here, generating incomes to the community. That's why my new idea of homestay is born, and my idea is to bring tourists into this valley and generate income to the local, obviously, but also give a local experience to the tourist, a Sherpa's everyday life, a Sherpa's culture, traditions, food. So all those things. What you see in the lodges, is the lodges are influenced from the Western. The decorations and chairs and sofa and everything is Western. So and menus and the food menu is mostly Western. So all this burger and chicken fry and pizza and those things are Western. So tourists really don't think any local things from those lodges, which we want to give from this homestay project. So hopefully we will go well.
Perfect. And then so this homestay service might help improve your livelihoods in face of tourism, for instance, because climbing Mount Everest is a lot more reliant on the weather than staying in the homestay service. So for instance, you mentioned today, in this time of the year, people are not able to climb Mount Everest anymore.
Yes.
But
yes, I tell you, a lot of, so all these villages which are not into the main trail to EBC. So the main income source for this families is going to climb Mount Everest for money. So a lot from every family, a lot of Sherpa people go to climb Everest, risking their life to get money, to make some money, because they don't get opportunity from tourism, because they don't have lodges in their houses. Their lodges are not in the main trail, so they don't make income from there. And this homestay concept will generate income, and they don't have to go to climb Everest, and they don't have to risk their life.
Absolutely. And then how do you think that the internet plays a role in supporting your plans to open a homestay service?
Internet absolutely has the biggest role in the marketing part, because once our homestay is set up and we want to tell people that we are we are here to host the homestay. We are ready to welcome you guys, but that is through internet, right? So internet is the biggest. Without internet, we cannot do anything. We cannot go down to Namche and bring the tourists physically. So the whole marketing process, the things we want to show to the world is through internet. So internet has the biggest role in promoting homestay. Yeah.
And you mentioned that part of that promotion would be a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, storing Chhepal's story through the podcast, knowing the world, who we are, what we do in here, what we are providing through podcasts. It's absolutely is going to be a massive platform through the internet. Yes.
Great. So just going back then, we are finalizing this weekend on the deployment of the podcast studio that will help you do that. And then we had finalized the first part of the community network that connected the club here in Kumde and the school in Kumjung. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the whole process was, like how it started and how we supported the deployment of the community network?
So at the very beginning, I came across with Bikram, who is the director of Nepal Internet Foundations, and I came to know Nabi through Bikram. And then we plan to set up a highest community network in Kunde and Kumjung. But then I have explained my project of homestay and Chhepal's story to Nabid, and then he gave this idea to set up a podcast here, the world highest podcast in Kunde. I mean, so far we're seeing a lot of stories of Westerns, a lot of different countries, but we are not able to share our stories, what we are, who we are, what we do to the world. So through the podcast, we can do all this. So Nabid bring this idea, and we all agreed, and we are very happy. And finally, we are here. The podcast is set up, and we are ready to host the podcast.
So I'm really excited to talk with you. So this is my first podcast experience, and obviously talking for the World Highest podcast. So really excited, yes.
This is amazing. It's part of how you also become part of the internet, right? You're not just consuming what's there, but you're also being a part of it and letting other people around the world to see how the Sherpa live if people are not able to get here, because it's not easy for everyone to be able to travel to this area of the world, and people can learn more about your culture and learn more about your experiences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Sherpa is very popular around the world. Everybody knows because of the mountains, but they don't know who Sherpa is. What is their culture, what is their religion, what do they eat. So they don't know all these things, and through the internet, through the podcast, we can show all these things to the world, so they can know, oh, Sherpa is this. Sherpa is not only people who climb mountain, but Sherpa is also this. So the world can know this, and it's really appreciating the podcast and internet and community network things. So really thankful to Internet Society and Nepal Internet Foundations.
That's great. And a little bit more also about what you think that the community could benefit from the internet besides the tourism and the homestay services, for instance.
From all the communities, there are a lot of people from their families who are staying overseas, America, Europe, Japan, different part of the world, and internet will bring the opportunity to communicate with their family members, or basically with video chat and all these things. The children can benefit from internet, can learn general knowledge. My time we don't have internet, so we don't know anything about world beside what we learn from school. But my son's generations now, my son go to school in Kathmandu, and he has good internet there. He know a lot of general knowledge more than me. I don't know much like him, because he is into internet since he born. And we get that opportunity if we have a good internet here, so all the children from these villages, they can benefit the internet, benefit all those things from internet, and the locals whose family members are overseas, they can communicate with their family members easily. It was a time when you have to go down to Namche and spend a lot of money to do a calling to your family members who are overseas, but internet will stop all these things. So yeah, it's a good thing.
And you mentioned also about health services and how people can maybe contact doctors outside of the...
This is absolutely new things here in this valley, but yes, we can start telemedicine services, because this valley is, we are in mountain, we're very remote, and go from one place to another place takes 3-4 hours of hiking. And we have a very few hospitals in this valley, which are even not a big hospitals where you can go and operate your big operations. So it costs a lot of money, and whatever happened to you, you have to go to Kathmandu and charter helicopters, which cost a lot of money. Actually, helicopter costs more money than your treatment. So with this internet, stable internet and telemedicines and things can solve all those problems. So yeah, I mean, internet will be game changer, and not only in this valley but in the whole world.
Yeah, and going back to education, and the reason that you also wanted to have this school in the community to be connected to the internet is because you think that you want to give them the same opportunity that you see your son having now in Kathmandu. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, at my time in school, if you have questions and you don't know the answers, then it's very difficult. You cannot dare. I mean, the education system here is different. You cannot dare to teacher to get answers that easily, because you are very afraid, you're very shy, you're very scared of teachers, and you remain answerless. But with internet, so if you see my son, if he is stuck in some questions, he just go to Google and search for answers. That's because of internet, and we don't have the service here in school so far. So community network finally set up internet in school, so all the students from the school now can learn more about world, more about general knowledge. They can learn anything through the internet, which is really good. They can learn the curriculum book. They can get any answers that they are looking for through the book. The questions from the book, they can get answers on the internet. You just go and just ask on Google, and you just get answers, which is really good. At my time, I need to ask for guest paper, which we call guest paper here, where question and answers are valuable. So we need to send someone, when we need to send money to someone, and he bring those guest paper, which costs a lot of money, obviously a lot of time, and yeah, it will solve a lot of problem in school.
So Chhepal, now that we talked about how we got the network running and all of that, can you tell us a little bit more about how the elders of the village adapted to getting online?
And since we practice Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism especially, the internet access through the internet, from the YouTube page, they get a lot of Buddhism teaching in YouTube. So it's really nice how all people are engaged on TP or on laptops, learning all Buddhism in online, which is really nice. We see, it's otherwise, for us, for Sherpa, for Tibetan, for people who follow Tibetan Buddhism, Dalai Lama is a big figure. So our milestone would be to meet him, but that's impossible physically. So at least we can see him through the internet and YouTube on videos and photos, and all people, they listen to him, they practice his teachings, which is really nice.
So they were able to find a way to express their own interests.
Yes, basically. Absolutely, yes. The interest, all people, their interest will be only, and when you get old, then you believe more in religions and your religions, obviously. So it's same here. So in young people, you are not into the religion so much, but when you grow older, then you're in Buddhism more, you practice more. So your daily life is waking up in the morning, you do prayer things, you learn prayer, you do prayers, and you listen to your teachers, Buddhist teachers, and so all these things, all these teaching things, you can get from YouTube or from other browsers, which is very nice.
It's amazing. And jumping ahead a little bit, so now that the network is running and people are taking advantage of it, one thing that we see as a challenge for community networks in general is that they need to become sustainable. They need to be able to have the finances in place and make sure that there are people running them in the long run, so that it's a sustainable solution. What are the plans for the network here to be sustainable? What are you doing to achieve that?
That's the most challenging part. Sustainability is the most challenging part of this community network here. I think it's not only here, but it's everywhere in the world, I think. So our plan is, so at the moment community network is in club and in school, but we're trying to get more money, and so we can get internet in every local household, so we can sell our network to household. We can get money from them, and that's how we can sustain. So it's not a business purpose, but just sustain the network. We can collect, we can charge them a little money, just sustain the network. So that's our plan in future.
And currently, how is it being run?
It's just been started, so it's been so currently for 1 year the Internet Society has paid for the whole bandwidth cost and all the installation cost and everything, so we don't need to worry about 1 year. But after 1 year we will community, I mean, once the community network is handed over to the community, we will have to think about the sustainability. So we are looking for sponsors to deploy the fiber into every individual houses, and we provide them internet. Instead of them, we collect some money to sustain the network.
Great. And can you talk a little bit more about bringing the fiber here? What do you think that bringing the fiber to every home of the community will bring to the community as well?
I mean, to bring fiber into this remote valley is very expensive. I mean, the helicopters are the only options. The helicopter cargo are the only options, and the helicopters are the most expensive cargo facility in the world. So it's very expensive. That's why we are trying to raise a lot of money to buy fiber and bring fiber here and deploy them here. So the nearest fiber point is Everest Hotel, which is over there. So from there, from that point, we want to bring fiber down to the village, whole village, to every local houses. Yeah, it's a big challenge, but we're trying on it.
So we talked about the plans for the network and improve connectivity through fiber, and you were mentioning that this is this would be something that's important. And the last question that I had would be, now we have the network running. We talked about the sustainability plan when you have the fiber and you wanted to charge a small fee to make sure that the network keeps running. But who will be responsible for running the network? Like, do you plan to establish a local ISP, or what do you think for the future to make sure that this is running?
So yes, so we have a community club here. So once the Everest Community Network is handed over towards the community club, community club will be responsible for all these operations things. So I think community club will be responsible.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the handover? What is this? Is it a ceremony, or what is inside?
So we will have. So it's tomorrow. So it's on 30th of October, and we will have. I mean, we have invited all the villages here, and we will have a party. First, we will have a ceremony handover program. First, we will have a handover program, and then we have a party celebrations of this community network. Yes.
And the handover is basically celebrating the conclusion of the community network at this stage, and then when the community club, as you mentioned, will be responsible for.
So it's basically both. So Internet Society and Nepal Internet Foundations has set up a community network, and they will hand over it to the community, and community will take a responsibility from now. So it's mixed. Yeah, it's both. So Nepal Internet Foundations and Internet Society has finished their role to set up a community network, and now the community club's roles begins from handover.